Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Todd Talk, a presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University's Department of Athletic Communications. I am Todd Miller. Today we're talking about Oklahoma Baptist women's soccer with head coach Mike White. Mike has been with the program for more than a decade. In fact, has spent the last 10 years as head coach on Bison Hill. Prior to that, 2 years as an assistant coach. And Mike, thanks for taking time during this strange fall season for you to visit with us here on Todd Talk.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Strange indeed, didn't it? You guys usually by now we're in early November. You're well on your way, hopefully, to another conference title.
Yes. Right now we'd be looking at the conference tournament typically. And for the past 3 years that we've been eligible, we've been in the championship. So that would be probably next weekend would have been. But as it is, we haven't been able to play any competitions, but have done quite a bit of training, and so I'm pleased with the results of the training and the lifting and the attitudes of the girls and so forth.
Right now, you're kind of in no man's land as far as your preseason practices and your training, as you would call it. Tell us what's going on right now, because as you told me before we came on, you're actually in a dead period that is instigated by the NCAA.
Yeah, we finished our 45-day segment of training for 15 hours a week. And typically we would go straight into our 8-hour segment. But I guess a new interpretation, or actually it wasn't new to the NCAA, but apparently it was new to the Division II schools, that we must take a 14-day break after our 45-day segment. Therefore, we are not allowed to do anything. And since that 14 days will take us up to a dead week and finals, then we may be done for the season, but we're fighting to get that 8-hour week back so that we can at least have 4 or 5 more days of practice.
Mike, this isn't something that's unique just to OBU, but how far would that put you behind the 8 ball if indeed you guys do play a spring season, having not practiced since really the end of October?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the other schools in our conference are doing, but I know of several schools in Division II that not only got to are still practicing, but have gotten to play scrimmages and play games, and they are not ending their semester at Thanksgiving. So that will extend their semester into December, which will give them less time off. I'm trusting that my girls will do what they need to do. They know what's expected of them. So, and we'll come back about the 18th of January and hopefully have at least 2 weeks before we start any competitions. But yeah, it definitely does not help. I feel like we've built a lot of momentum, and taking 2.5 months, or let's see, about a month and a half off, it can't be good.
You know, during our series of Todd Talk interviews, I've asked this question to a lot of coaches. During these times, you have to really lean on your veterans. You have to lean on your players to be self-disciplined and to take care of themselves, both physically and mentally, because there's just such limited time that coaches right now during these times have with their players.
That's 100% true. I've got 3 great captains. They're great leaders and they're great motivators, and they're not afraid to hold the team accountable. And so I trust that they'll do that. But they're fighting holidays, they're fighting weather, and they're fighting 6-7 weeks of being at home. Something we've never experienced. We've always fought summer. Because we end late April typically, and then send them into the summer with a training program that it's voluntary, but they realize that when they come back in August, not only are we starting our season, but they're going to have fitness tests that they're expected to pass. But it's summertime, and so the weather's not a factor. Holidays, you got the 4th of July, but people tend to be a lot more active in the summer than they do in the winter. So there's going to be several hurdles to overcome. But if I had to do it with a team, this is the team to do it with. They're very motivated. They've been getting after it. And then I have a firm belief in and my captains. So.
You lost a lot from last year. And I think by your standards, 11-7-2 is very disappointing. Does that create a sense of urgency and additional hunger on the part of the veterans that are returning? And as you mentioned, your three captains?
Oh yeah, it certainly does. It was a disappointing year in wins and losses. A lot of those games were very, very close, and the majority of those games, I felt like we dominated possession and shot attempts and so forth. But it seemed like there was a seal over the goal. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net when we needed to. But we still made it to the championship game. Disappointing loss in that game, but we made it there again for the third year in a row, so we were pleased with that. But yeah, the expectations of my seniors are high. I believe they're thankful for another opportunity, and I believe we've added to it a group of strong freshmen that'll come in and help right away.
As I mentioned in my open, you've been with the program a long time. That means you've seen an awful lot of change on Bison Hill. I mean, from the days of the Center Athletic Conference and the NAIA through the transition period, the NCCAA, and now into Division II and membership of the Great American Conference. How has things changed for you and your philosophy in recruiting athletes, or has it changed at all during all this different time?
Well, I do believe that the door has been opened wider to bring in I don't know if I would say a higher caliber of athlete, because we've had some great athletes during the Sooner Athletic Conference, but I do believe that more high caliber athletes are interested in OBU now. So it does make our roster deeper. I don't think my philosophy towards recruiting has changed a whole lot, but it is getting a little bit more and more difficult to make the team now, which is a good problem to have. But one thing I've had to change is I've had to say, this may not be the place for you, because it's going to be very difficult for you to come and to play. And these are great girls, great athletes, but because of our depth and so forth, it makes it much more difficult. So that's the only thing I think I've changed. And that's a good change. And I'm excited about the players that I have now, but then that are coming in the next year or two. I've got commitments already for that, and I'm looking forward to it.
You have had a chance to be the flagship program the last really 2+ seasons in Great American Conference. What do you have to do as a program now, Mike, to step up and be able to compete even better in regional competition?
Well, thankfully, we've gotten to play quite a few teams in the region. We made it to the national tournament, not last year, but the year before. So we saw the competition, and we're really, really close. We're only a goal or two away, I believe, from really competing regionally, and our region's pretty strong as well in the nation. So I feel like we're really close, and the athletes that I brought in as freshmen and the athletes that are here and the athletes that I have committed for the upcoming years, I think we have a really good chance. But we need to put the ball in the back of the net. So we need finishers, and every program in the country is looking for those special players that just know how to find, that little slot to put the ball in the back of the net. But defense is getting smarter. Goalies are getting more athletic. And so it's becoming more and more difficult to score, in my opinion.
When you have the success at the level you've had the last 2+ seasons, it's obviously not about one player in the program. It's about an entire team and the concept. But what's the loss of Ruth King, a player like her, mean to your program? Because she's arguably the most decorated player you've had come through there.
Yeah, she's a great story. Come from Shawnee, Oklahoma. Didn't play high levels of club soccer, which is a typical athlete we're looking at. And then just came in and put the work in. She was a tremendous athlete with speed. She loved to play the game. All those are elements that you want in all your players. Losing her it definitely hurts as far as goal scoring and so forth. But it also makes us a little more unpredictable because teams knew we were getting the ball to Ruth, and they still couldn't stop her for most of the time. But now we've kind of spread that talent around. So now we've got several weapons. I believe that people are going to have to shut down. And we've had that in the past as well. It wasn't just Ruth, but they mainly focused on her. And so that makes us a little bit more unpredictable.
Mike Whitehead, women's soccer coach at Oklahoma Baptist, our guest on this edition of Todd Talk. Mike, you not only lost Ruth, but you lost a really good senior class last year. Mm-hmm. You still feel like this program doesn't take a step back? You just kind of have reloaded?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say we've taken a step back. We certainly missed those seniors. They were phenomenal. But we've got some good athletes coming in. What we'll miss, obviously, is their experience in playing the game at competitive levels, especially within the conference. We'll miss that experience tremendously. But as far as athletes, soccer talent, and desire, I feel like we filled those holes pretty well as best we can.
Oh, you've mentioned a couple of times already during our visit about your captains. I want you to take a moment and talk about those three young ladies that obviously with a much newer team than the one you've had in terms of veterans the last couple of seasons is going to play a very large role in the spring if you do play in the team's success.
Well, we went with three this year. Typically we've had two, but we felt like each girl brought a certain strengths to the position. We started way back last spring after we chose our captains, we started kind of mentoring them a little more, being more intentional about what we want out of them and not just for them to be a figurehead. They really bought into it. We met each week on Zoom and we talked about the issues that are coming up. And we talked about how we want them to be leaders and we want them to be an extension of the coaches. They bought into it and it's been a good change. I feel like we've got girls that aren't afraid to hold the other girls accountable. We've got captains that are lead by example, and we've got captains that are, morally, they have moral authority as well. They're behaving themselves in the classroom, out of the classroom, on the field, off the field. They're doing the things that the other girls can look up to and follow.
I'm assuming one of those three captains might be kin to you. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah.
But I bring that up, Mike, not for what people might think I'm saying. Right. How special has that been for you to be able to not only have a father-daughter relationship with Hannah, but be her college coach and enjoy the success together during her career?
You're going to get me choked up. I can't hardly talk about it. She never wanted to be captain. She really almost declined the position. And I say that because the girls voted. I always let the team have an input on who the captain is. And so they voted these three, and it became very clear that they looked to Hannah for that position. So that made me very proud. She decided to stay with it and has done well with it. I think the chance for me to be so close in helping mentor and then see her strengths come out, strengths that her mother and I have always tried to nurture. Those strengths have come out, and it's been a joy to see. It really has.
Coach, man, I love the emotion. That is great. I think it's so great you've been able to share in this experience, not only together as father and daughter, but your entire family. So kudos on that. Okay, we're talking about the captains, but who's maybe surprised you in the fall thus far that you're going to maybe expect more out of when the season does resume?
Are you talking captains? Are you talking about
No, I'm talking
players?
about the whole team.
Okay. Well, I've been pleasantly. It's hard to tell because we're not competing. But I've been pleasantly surprised with the attitude and the work ethic of really just everybody on the team. Uh, it's hard to single out one person and say they've just really been a pleasant surprise. There are girls, and I hate to say that I brought anyone in and didn't expect much, and
Right.
now they're doing really well. I feel like that's a personal conversation I would have with them.
Maybe just a little bit ahead of schedule from where you thought they might be to this point.
Yeah, well, I hoped that we would work as hard as we had, and I hoped that the girls would buy into it and that we would be as consistent as we've had. And I credit that a lot to my assistant coaches as well. I actually got quarantined for 2 weeks of the 45 days. So I wasn't with them, but they didn't miss a beat because I've got two assistants that are very committed and very competent coaches, and they've done a great job. So when I came back and saw the girls, working out, organized, and doing what they need to do, I felt I was very pleased with where we've gotten to. So I'm a little surprised that or pleasantly surprised that we're going so strong. The girls are still hungry. They still want to practice. They still want to push and make themselves better and stronger, because I figured by now, going into the season, we'd be kind of beat down, tired of practicing, and worn out. But it doesn't seem to be the case, at least from what I can see from the last practice that we've had.
Mike White of Oklahoma Baptist Women's Soccer is our guest on Todd Talk. A couple more quick questions for you. One, I'm assuming there's going to be a schedule. Well, there is a schedule. I'm assuming there's going to be some form of season in the spring. Where does that stand as we talk today, to your knowledge?
Well, we've got a proposed schedule of playing conference of our conference games. We haven't yet, and I've added a couple games in case we are able to do it. And two of those are Division I schools, so Oral Roberts University and Tulsa University. I've also been talking with Dallas Baptist University, who went to very deep in the national tournament last year. So a very tough pre-conference schedule is what we're looking at, as long as that gets cleared. And then the conference schedule would start around mid-February. So weather is going to be, an issue. But if we only play conference, then we'll start mid-February and we'll play every Saturday for about 6 weeks or so.
Again, this is not a situation that's unique to Oklahoma Baptist, but that's who we're talking about. Does this present different challenges for you recruiting-wise? Because the NCAA has said seniors will be allowed to come back later on this year.
Yeah.
So what does that do to your scholarship money? And second of all, playing in the spring, does that hamper your ability to get out and look at other recruits?
Well, typically now is the recruiting season. As soon as the national or the conference tournament and the regional tournament and all that ends, now's a big time. There's some big tournaments going on down in Dallas, so we'll be getting out like the weekend after Thanksgiving. We'll be heading down to Dallas likely. Phoenix is coming up. So now is a real good season. What we typically do in the spring is we've already identified some girls in club, so we might go watch them play in their high school games. So that'll be different this year because of us being in season. But I don't think it's really changed, at least I can't tell yet, how it's changed our recruiting strategy or our ability to get recruits. So, but if it continued much longer, and especially if it was just our conference not playing games, then that's going to obviously affect things. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think, things will come back to normal pretty soon, and everyone understand that this was a unique situation, and I don't foresee it affecting recruiting.
Great, Mike. Great to visit with you. Congratulations on the success, continued success to you beginning of the spring, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, Todd.
Mike White, head women's soccer coach at Oklahoma Baptist University, is our guest for this edition of Todd Talk. That's going to wrap it up. We hope to see you again soon for another edition of Todd Talk, a presentation of Oklahoma Baptist University's Department of Athletic Communication. So long, everybody.